It was a dark and stormy night. This is the story of the resurrection. There was a man who went by the name of Jesus Christ. He was crucified and resurrected and beat death on the third day.
But Richard, how do you know he was resurrected?
There's this acronym I like to use. It's called BEAT.
Richard, what does the B stand for?
The B stands for burial. We know for 100% sure that Jesus was buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea.
There are 5 main reasons for its factuality. Jesus' burial was attested by Paul the Apostle to the church of Corinth. The story of the burial was told in the book of Mark, the oldest of all the Gospels. Joseph of Arimathea is unlikely to be a Christian invention because he was a well-known member of the high court. Number 4, burial story lacks any signs of legendary development or fabrication. Number 5, there is no other known competing burial story.
I didn't know any of that. What about the E?
The E stands for empty tomb, and how the tomb Jesus was buried in was found empty. Once again, this information is backed up by the information Paul gave to the church in Corinth, as well as it is written in the earliest Gospel of Mark. The empty tomb was also discovered by women, and when you really think about it, would they say women discovered it? Because in that time, women were not as respected. So if they were lying, they would want the most credible story, so they would have made up that men discovered it.
That's really interesting, Bridger. What about the A?
The A is for appearances, which is basically talking about the people Jesus appeared to after the resurrection. We know he appeared to over 500 people, the first of those being the disciples. The people he saw experienced different things and under various circumstances in over a 40-day period. These appearances were very early and therefore cannot be dismissed as legendary. There are also various accounts of Jesus appearing to different individuals. These include an appearance to Peter that is attested by Luke and Paul. Appearance to the 12 by Luke, John, and Paul. To the woman which is attested by Matthew and John. Appearances in Galilee that are attested by Mark, Matthew, and John.
Well, that covers the B, the E, and the A. But what about the T?
The T is for transformation. After the resurrection, the 12 disciples became completely transformed. They went from being sort of reserved to telling anyone and everyone about the gospel. They came to believe that God rose Jesus from the dead, despite everything that they ever knew about Jesus and his life.
So, to get this straight, the B is for Jesus' burial in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. The E is for the discovery of his empty tomb. The A is for his post-mortem appearances. And the T is the origin of the disciples' belief in his resurrection.
Yes, exactly.
But Bridger, what about the people who have alternative theories, like that the disciples stole his body while he was in the tomb?
Well, that may explain the empty tomb, but it does not explain the transformation of the disciples. What would the disciples have to gain from that, and why would they be willing to die for a lie? That also does not give an explanation for the transformation of James and Paul. The main reason that this theory is rejected is because the disciples could not have stolen the body and fooled everyone while also going and sincerely preaching the gospel.
But Bridger, there are also people who say that the disciples and women just simply went to the wrong tomb. What would you have to say about that?
I would tell them that because Jesus was buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, who was a very popular person, people knew which tomb was his. Even the Jews knew the tomb was empty because it was a known tomb. This theory also does not explain the appearances or transformations.
There are also people who think that Jesus' resurrection and the whole experience was a hallucination. How would you disprove that?
I would start off with this. There has never been an account of mass hallucination to this scale in the history of the world. So how would this be the first? Second, I would tell them that hallucinations cannot change lives, as we know the disciples and Paul and James' lives were changed. And third, I would tell them that this does not explain the empty tomb.